Today, we're going to tear into something fascinating: the anatomy of control. We're talking about the actual playbook high control groups use to suck people in, lock them down, and make escape seem totally impossible.
So you gotta ask yourself, right? How in the world does something as innocent as a weight loss program or a personality test lead to someone losing literally everything? Their family, their money, their entire life? Well, as we're about to see, the rabbit hole almost always starts with something that looks completely harmless.
Okay, so on one hand, you've got belief systems that are, well, they sound like they're ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie. This quote here, it's from Scientology, which, maybe not surprisingly, was created by a sci-fi author, L. Ron Hubbard. The whole idea is that, a galactic overlord from millions of years ago is why we all have problems today. Wild, right?
And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you get something that sounds, well, pretty simple and appealing. This is from Gwen Shamblin's group, which actually started as a diet program. The pitch was straightforward, and it tapped into a really common struggle: lose weight by swapping your love of food for a love of God. See? Totally different vibe.
So, how do you get from a sci-fi story or a diet plan to a massive, all-controlling organization? Well, it all kicks off with one key ingredient: a super charismatic founder, someone who pinpoints a problem we all feel, and then claims they, and only they, have the answer.
And check this out. This is the core formula right here. L. Ron Hubbard, he's zoned in on our hidden trauma and sold his special technique, auditing, as the cure. Gwen Shamblin, she said overeating was a spiritual problem, and her program was the only way to get right with God. You see the pattern? The founder isn't just some helpful guide. No, they're the savior, and they've got the only key.
Okay, so once the leader sets up this perfect problem and solution trap, they don't just sit back and wait. Oh no, they build a very, very carefully designed path to pull people in step by step. We can call it a funnel of control. And this is how it works. It starts with something that seems totally low risk, right? A free personality test from Scientology, or a weekend workshop for the diet program. But here's the thing: every single step after that is engineered to get you more and more committed, more dependent. It slowly cuts you off from your old life until, before you know it, the group is your entire reality.
Now, one of the most powerful tools in this whole process is something Scientology calls auditing. They sell it as a kind of therapy, a way to clear your mind. But here's the kicker. Ex-members say that every session where you're spilling your deepest, darkest secrets is recorded. And that information, it's all filed away, basically creating a treasure trove of blackmail that can be used against anyone who even thinks about leaving. So once you're all in, a whole new reality gets built around you. It's like a bubble. And inside this bubble, there are new rules, new ways of thinking, all designed for one thing: control. It creates this intense us versus them mentality. It doesn't matter if them is alien spirits or, just your neighbor who isn't in the group.
And the demands inside that bubble can be just insane. Take Scientology's elite group, the Sea Org. Former members talk about working up to 110 hours a week. A week! And for all that work, you don't get a salary, you get a weekly allowance, $47. Think about that. No cell phone, no real contact with the outside world for $47 a week. And they keep that bubble sealed tight using a whole bunch of tactics. Any information from the outside world, that's dangerous. Your money? Well, that gets tangled up with the group too. You see this with Remnant Fellowship, where people are pushed to work for and buy from businesses owned by other members. They create a culture where everyone is watching everyone else, and any relationship you had with people outside the group, they're systematically torn apart. The pressure inside this bubble is just immense because the group's needs always come before your own, always. As this former Sea Org member shared, the greatest good is whatever serves the organization, even if it means making the most heartbreaking, life-altering decisions imaginable for yourself.
So this all sounds pretty terrible, right? Which leads to the big question. If it's so bad, why don't people just leave? Well, it's because these groups don't just build a community, they build a fortress. A fortress with psychological and social walls so high that getting out feels completely impossible. And the biggest, most powerful brick in that wall is the threat of being totally alone. In Scientology, they have an official policy for it. It's called disconnection. It's brutal. If your mom or your brother or anyone in your family is critical of the church, you are forced to cut them out of your life completely. No calls, no contact. If you don't,
You're the one who gets kicked out. They're literally holding your family hostage. And for the people who actually manage to get out and then dare to speak up about it, the retaliation is just relentless. This timeline is based on what ex-members have described. It's a campaign of harassment they call fair game, and its only goal is to completely destroy your life. We're talking private investigators, constant intimidation, anything to silence you and make an example out of you.
Yeah, as this former member puts it so powerfully, it's this systematic destruction of families that leads people to call it a cult. The price of leaving is designed to be absolutely catastrophic. It's a huge, terrifying warning sign for anyone else inside who might be thinking of getting out.
So look, the specific beliefs of Scientology and Remnant Fellowship, they couldn't be more different, right? One's about aliens, the other's about diet and God. But their playbook, the way they control people, it's almost identical. These are the red flags, the telltale signs you can spot in any high control group, no matter what they claim to be about.
So here's your checklist. Here's what you need to look for. Number one, there's always a leader who claims to have all the answers. They create that us versus them world. They punish anyone who asks questions or disagrees. They demand total control over your life, your time, your money, your friends. And this is the big one. There is always a terrible price to pay if you try to leave.
Look, at the end of the day, understanding this stuff isn't just some interesting thought exercise. When you can see the playbook, when you can recognize the funnel, the bubble, and the wall, you're arming yourself. You're building up the critical thinking skills to spot this kind of manipulation wherever it shows up.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question. Now that you know the blueprint, now that you've seen the playbook, where else are you seeing this today? Think about it. In wellness trends, in financial groups, maybe even in politics. Where do you see these tactics at play right now?